So, welcome. I'm Riv Shapiro. I am the arts and culture producer at the Minnesota JCC and the producing director of this year's festival. And I'm so happy to be here with you on closing day of our festival. It's been a huge success, and I thank you all so much for showing up and participating in it. And I'm really excited to be here with Dor and Ophir this morning, and also Lizzie, who is the arts and culture coordinator, and she's available to help with any tech needs that you have. So if you're having trouble with Zoom, you can send a message to Lizzie and she will do her best to help you out. And so I want to introduce Dor and Ophir, and then I'll pass it off to them for some cooking and stories. Ophir and Dora Haberer are facilitators of men's work and wellness retreats, holistic chefs, rites of passage and earth-based Jewish educators, and body workers. They are twin brothers born in Jerusalem and raised on a kibbutz in Israel. They moved to St. Louis at age 5 and grew up between Israel and St. Louis. In addition to their individual work, they've collaborated on many projects together. These projects include teaching an online Rewilding Judaism series, which I happen to be an educator in. We've worked together a lot, cooking for retreats together, and facilitating spaces for healing and vulnerability for men. They are in the process of forming an organization to house their men's work offerings called Kinhood, and they reside in Northern California. Thanks so much for being here.
It's so good to be here with y'all. Shalom, Boker Tov, and we're excited to cook with y'all today. That's one of our favorite things to do with people, and it's just what we grew up around as well.
Yeah, we grew up in our mother is Moroccan, and she comes like from a lineage of strong culinary love and enthusiasm, and grew up with our grandmother and our mom's amazing Moroccan hybrid of Israeli food, and growing up, because our mom is so loves to cook and was always like creating many dishes at once. We were more the recipients, and so when we left the house after high school, and we started when we went to college and lived in Israel, and started playing with different diets, both vegetarian and vegan for a while, and trying to incorporate more like local ingredients. Then we started really playing around in the kitchen, and yeah, that's been like a 13-year journey, and so we've been and at the same time really deeply interested in the lineage and in the Moroccan Jewish lineage, and in cooking and the ingredients that are coming from and how they got there, and how do you get them more directly and be in relationship with them. And so yeah, one dish that feels really popular these days, it's a North African Jewish dish, is shakshuka. I'm sure many of you have eaten it. Some of you may have made it before.
And when we grew up, shakshuka is what we ate for dinner. We never had it for breakfast. It was always like a lot of time, like we grew up with like you eat like a light breakfast, a big lunch, and like a medium-sized dinner, which is usually like the eggs and toast. So it's like what we have for breakfast these days. And so that's kind of what we grew up with. And that was like a special event when we'd have shakshuka for dinner and be like, yes. And so, but now these days I can eat it for dinner sometimes, but I eat it for breakfast a lot of times.
Yeah, and so shakshuka, shakshuka is like in Arabic is the word for mixed up, like a mixture.
Like shak.
Like in Hebrew, now in modern Hebrew, like they've kind of borrowed that, and shak means to mix it up. And so that's kind of the what the name shakshuka means, and and people have different also ideas of of what it means, and also where it's from is kind of contested. You know, like it's largely known that it's kind of North African Jewish dish, but there's like competing claims between Tunisia and Libya and Morocco, and also thinking about shakshuka, you know, a lot of the main ingredients in shakshuka, the bell peppers, the tomatoes, those come from the New World, right? They originate from the Americas, and so it's predicted that it came around the mid 16th century through the Colombian African exchange.
And it's also like some people say that it might have come from the tradition of like using whatever vegetables you have and then like making some sort of like kind of sauce, and then you crack the eggs inside of it. And then some people say, no, shakshuka is like a very specific, you know, recipe. And so there's also mixed thoughts around that, of whether it's just coming as like, it's like a dish that came from like just having a bunch of like whatever vegetables you have, and you cut them up and you make them into a sauce, and then you put eggs inside, or whether it's actually the way we're going to show you today, which is like kind of just what's become a little more, this just become the most known and popular as well, of creating shakshuka.
And even that, you know, there's so many different, like you'll see different recipe books that have like varying recipes of shakshuka. You know, some use more bell peppers, some like the different kind of tomato paste, and how much water, like how liquid it is versus how like solid it is, how spicy it is. If you use extra peppers, like you'll see different, what you garnish on top, you'll see just different variations in different recipe books. But this is a recipe that we've come to love, and so that's what we're sharing. And for us, in like part of our cooking and for retreats and events, a lot of it is centered around wellness and centered around and health. And so we really try to make it as fresh as possible, and with health, like and nutrition in mind.
Any questions before we begin?
Can you talk a little bit? Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
Guys, a quick question.
Yeah, please.
Do we get a copy of like the recipe? Super excited to do this. Thank you for setting this all up, everybody. But yeah, do we get a copy of the recipe?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we could.
The ingredients list went out through Eventive. Do you have the ingredients list? Okay, so you just wanted the instructions. Cool.
Yeah, you could probably send it out. You can take notes, whatever feels good. Yeah.
That'll be a recording too.
Yeah, there'll be a recording. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get a recipe written out.
Great.
Thanks for that. Can you speak at all, like, you know, the film Breaking Bread that we're doing this in conjunction with, is based in Israel, and it's a lot about Levantine dishes. Can you speak to just anything that comes to mind of how this dish traveled to Israel and became part of these cultures that live there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, during, especially during like the 1950s, there's a lot of migration from North African countries to Israel, and you know, and like there's a lot of there's a big pull from, you know, ambassadors from the Zionist state to bring folks in from these North African countries, and so the dish probably came at around that time, and then kind of in some way became like the Israeli cuisine. And, you know, I think there's some controversy around that, around like how perhaps like some of the culture that was wanted was taken and celebrated, and other culture was rejected or suppressed. And then the people weren't, in some ways, like weren't as well taken care of in terms of where they were offered to live within the state of Israel. And so, yeah, I think like, you know, now like it kind of traveled to Israel, and it became this Israeli dish. And because Israelis travel all over the world, now you'll see shakshuka and bring their, their tight groups. Now you'll see shakshuka in like the little
India.
towns in Peru, or little towns in India, or little towns in Thailand. And in some places, like I've actually been, they don't even know that it's an Israeli dish. It's become like a global dish. Shakshuka, oh yeah, this is the breakfast dish, shakshuka. And so it's interesting how that's traveled as well.
Yeah, I mean, even Israeli, like if it was pointing to, is controversial because of, where it's coming from. It's like North African roots, and so yeah, there's just a lot there. And just like a cool thing about the film as well was, it's in Haifa, and like a lot of that is set place, and our family is like not that far away. It's just like a little bit north of Haifa.
And in the north, you'll see a lot more. Like in the central, you'll see it. It's like the Arab and Jewish cultures are so much more separate. And in the north, you'll see a lot more weaving in, especially when it comes to food and the markets and so like in our family's hometown in the north, there's so much, like so much exchange, interaction with food and ingredients with the Arab communities.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from anyone before we get in? I'm excited. I'm like ready to chop an onion.
I know how people are ready and excited and hungry.
It'll take a little while, but
Great, let's begin.
that's good.
So, yeah, everyone received an ingredient list, and so basically you'll see two screens right now. We'll kind of be talking through it, and then there'll be a closer up of the cutting board. And so if everyone, I don't know, for those who are cooking, I know some folks are just spectating and some folks are potentially cooking along. We're going to begin in cutting the onion, because the onion is the first thing that is chopped in the shakshuka dish, because it's the first thing that you're going to saute, and so as part of the base of the shakshuka. And so Dor right now is going to peel and cut the onion, and usually you slice it in half. You lay the two halves flat on a cutting board, and then the way I like to do it, and like I said, there's different ways, but so like you don't get too much onion in one bite, is then you slice into thin strips each half, and then you cross that, and so you make it into just to little kind of cubey pieces. And at any point as we're cooking and any questions come up, and like, yeah, please, like this is an engaging, like this is an interactive space. So
yeah, and there's many ways to, I mean, like, you could cut it into cubes, you can cut it in like, in like slices. It's kind of depending on what you want. There's not like necessarily one way to do it.
Exactly. And it's gonna taste the same, but it depends on how much, what you want each bite. And when we saute the onion, in the beginning, we'll put a little bit, like I like to saute it with, in the beginning with a little bit of salt. And that will help extract a little more of the juices. And then you can already add some of the spices in. The spices that we have, shakshuka, a lot of different, like we said, there's different variations, but almost always in the recipe, there's these two spices. There's the paprika and the cumin.
Those are the, yeah.
Those are two main, and then you'll see other folks add like coriander or a turmeric, and or some other like Aleppo pepper or whatever it may be, to add to the spice. But those are the two main spices with shakshuka. And during shakshuka, you also, after you put the onion, you also, at the same time, you'll want to have some minced garlic, chopped garlic. And for garlic to really, to have the nutritive, to get the, like all the beneficial properties of the garlic, before you cook it, you actually want to let it cut, and you want to let it stay for, sit for 10 minutes, or a few minutes.
Yeah, and I'm about to put the oils, and some, like, as we're cooking the onions, like we usually like to either like refined coconut oil or avocado oil, or just things that retain high heat. So as we start cooking, and then we can put the olive oil later as well. But you can also just use olive oil too.
So I hope everyone sees the ingredient list that Riv just put onto the chat. And like, again, any questions around measurements, yeah, you can ask away. The Moroccan Israeli kitchen is usually a lot more intuitive, and so a lot of times you see measurements just kind of being bypassed in some way, and there are different measurements that we come up with. So we started with one medium-sized onion, and then we're going to do either 2 big cloves of garlic or 3 medium-sized ones.
Just stir it up, and that's all. So just the garlic, and we got this nice garlic at the farmer's market yesterday. Beautiful and purple.
Should the onions be in the pan going?
Yeah, they can already be starting to go, and then like as you and then you put the onions, and then you can just cut the garlic.
Do you have any like good Moroccan music that we should be playing also, or is that like?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. That'd be nice to have in the background. I could have like a song.
One of us could share sound, maybe so it doesn't have to like distract on your internet. If Lizzie could give me permission or something, I could share on Spotify.
Yeah, I can.
Or if it works on your end, if it doesn't make your internet slower.
We could try it, and if not, we can. Either way, I can send you.
Why don't you try it?
Okay, let me try it. Yeah, I need to be co-host, so I think. Am I? Okay. Okay, let's try it out.
See, the onions are getting, we're mixing with the spices and salt.
I'm about to play a song. It's a Moroccan Israeli band, and Ta'abil Tarbah is a phrase in Moroccan, and then the rest of the song is in Hebrew, and it's a fun song. So let's I'm trying to make sure it's not too loud.
And then we're gonna start, once the garlic, then we'll start washing the cutting tomatoes. Now I'm washing the tomatoes and from our friend's garden.
And you can see like this is cooking the onions with all the different spices. You're starting to get kind of a yellowish orange color.
לפעמים חושב, וואלק מה אני בכלל רוצה? מה יהיה עם זה? מתי אני כבר אתרצה? זה דורש טיפול, אני לזה לא אכנע. לה 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 לה.
I'm so sorry if I missed when you said this, but I saw the question in the chat about spices amount. Is it just kind of like free form, or how much do you suggest?
I would suggest like yeah, I kind of already have like a computer how much you can always add a little more. Like, a good measurement would be like a nice teaspoon of cumin.
It is a little hard to hear you up here.
Okay, let me turn down the music.
I'm crying deeply. Right now, is anyone else onion crying? Okay, Lauren.
Yeah, yours crying too. So for the measurements for the I would say like a good heaping teaspoon of paprika and cumin is a good yeah, would be a good measurement.
Thank you.
So yeah, now I'm also like I'm letting the garlic sit for a little bit, and I'm starting at the tomatoes, and also bell pepper. And we have a mix of both regular tomatoes and cherry tomatoes, because the cherry tomato sometimes is nice, but you don't need it, but like sometimes it's nice, makes it look like a nice addition. And it's also what we got from our friend's garden, all the tomatoes.
And yeah, we like for us, you know, part of the like as when we think about cooking in it, you know, like we're eating as much as we are with our bellies and our mouths, we're also feasting with our eyes. And so like thinking about the different tomatoes that we use and how we can just beautify it. And if you want, you can add like a little bit of spice into it. You can also saute the like these like any peppers, or you might have this like a special heirloom one, but you can do jalapenos or what. I mean, it kind of depends on what your spice tolerance and level is. And you can saute that with the bell pepper.
Great. Ophir, do you want to send me the link to the playlist? Because I think it might be impacting your internet connection.
Yeah, 1 second.
Is there a benefit to using fresh tomatoes versus like canned tomatoes?
You can use either. I mean, fresh gives it, the freshness because of the water, and it gives it like a little bit more, it's just a little bit of a different flavor. Like the can is a little more concentrated, and so it gives it a little more of like a dense versus use fresh. So either one, it's like depends what you have. Like in the summertime, you're gonna use, if you can get fresh time, and in the winter time, when you don't have fresh tomatoes, then you can use tomatoes. But you can do that any time of the year.
Yeah, I think I prefer the taste of the fresh tomatoes with the juices when they come as it's cooked. But you'll see most recipes they'll use canned tomatoes. And it's really delicious.
I'm gonna add the garlic in.
לפעמים חושב, וואלק מה אני בכלל רוצה? מה יהיה עם זה? מתי אני כבר אתרצה? זה דורש טיפול.
If anyone has bread too, I would love to. I have like a sourdough baguette, and you can whatever bread you have. I like to toast it to have on the side. In North Africa, usually dishes like that are saucy, like shakshuka or tagine, usually with some kind of bread. So we're going to slice the bread too and put that in.
אם כבר באנו לכאן, כנראה שיש עניין. וואלק עכשיו אני מתחיל מכאן, בא אליי חבר, אמר לי שמע דבר קטן, תהביל תרבח, בוא ותהיה נוכח, זה כל העניין, בוא יא חביבי הלאה, תהביל תרבח, כשצריך תהיה פרחח.
When you cook the bell pepper, you put the onion, and then you put the garlic, and then you put the bell pepper, and you let that saute for a little bit, and then you add the tomatoes. You like to do the fresh tomatoes, like canned tomatoes. And then with the bell pepper, like I said, if you want to add any other peppers, other spices, you can add that as well. And then sometimes you'll see like people add other veggies, like now popular are seen as like a cauliflower shakshuka, or some people use mushrooms in the shakshuka, and so but the basic recipe is with the bell peppers and the tomatoes.
Is anybody trying a variation with what they have at home? Anybody want to share if they're using a special ingredient that they have around? I'm thinking about doing mushrooms because I don't think I have bell peppers. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
The mushrooms I would add maybe after the tomatoes.
Yeah, or with the tomatoes.
Or with the tomatoes.
Yeah. And like I actually had to once cook shakshuka. Like someone really wanted shakshuka, but they were allergic to nightshades. Nightshades are everything in the Solanaceae family, which are like the tomatoes, the eggplants, peppers, and like bell pepper. And so another dish that you'll see nowadays too in Israel, it's called green shakshuka, which is like the base is like the onions and the garlic, but then you add a lot of greens into it with a little bit of water. You'll see tahini as well as part of the base. And I do it with some coconut milk when I make it. And you just put a little bit more of like the coriander and cumin, a little more of the cooling spices rather than the paprika, because the paprika is also a nightshade. So there's just many different ways to make it, like many variations. And so you could adjust it according to your dietary needs.
Here's just the pepper, garlic, and onion. And spices. Cooking together.
And again, I also use sometimes once I make the base with the tomatoes, and then before cracking the eggs, I'll also chop some kale or chard or some green like that. And then I like to add that as well sometimes for the contrast of color, bringing some of the green, even though we'll also put the parsley in them. It's also another possibility.
Or even like I cut up zucchini, and I like to add zucchini in with my shakshuka as well. A lot of times when I have zucchini, it's really nice.
So that's where we go back to shakshuka as being the meaning of shakshuka being mixture, because it could really be a mixture of many different things. You know, we can really use our imagination, and there's something nice about that, like the traditional or what's known now as the traditional recipe.
We've put fresh ginger sometimes in ours. Makes a good little spice to it.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I guess it's like, yeah, you can add whatever spice. You know, ginger has that heating spice quality. So you can do either a regular pepper, or you could do ginger, or yeah, depending on the heat that you're inviting in. On winter days, ginger is really great. What?
I'm also going to use some spicy pepper in there too. Garden. You know, kind of. This pepper. Ooh, it smells so good.
There's a question of when to add all the spices.
But you can add them throughout, you know. You can add them with the onions. You can add them later when the tomatoes are cooking. You know, you kind of like sprinkle it throughout.
Yeah, in the traditional recipe, you put a little bit, like in the way we grew up, you put a little bit with the onions, so the onions can soak it up, and then you add it later with the tomatoes, and so then all the kind of the like whatever is already in the pot can absorb all the spices. So you could do it twice. You know, like just do a little bit less in the beginning and then add, or you could just do it in the beginning and it'll get mixed up anyway, or you could do it with tomatoes. And yeah, there's people do it in different ways. I like to add a little bit in the beginning with the onions, and then add once I got the tomatoes stewing before adding the eggs, adding the rest of the spices.
So I'm going to add the tomatoes now and the pepper, the hot pepper.
And something else that I forgot to mention in talking about shakshuka is that some actually say that the word shakshuka doesn't actually come from like the Arabic mixture, but it actually comes from the Amazigh language, which is groups indigenous to that area, of Morocco and Tunisia, Algeria, and what has been later referred to as Berbers by colonizers. They're Berber, meaning barbaric, but the Amazigh is like the wide. I mean, of course, there's a lot of indigenous groups within that larger identity. But yeah, the word. Some say that the word comes from that language. For the turmeric, I usually do like half a teaspoon. once again, if you use a little bit more,
You see, so like,
it's great.
As I add the tomatoes, then I'm gonna add like some more spices and
And with turmeric too, if you want to get in turmeric, there has the curcumin alkaloid, which is part of like what we hear about is that kind of like the anti-inflammation and other like health properties. And usually you put a little bit of black pepper with it to activate that curcumin. And usually we add a little black pepper at the end of the shakshuka as well.
I did not know about black pepper activating the turmeric. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
and
Usually with a little bit of fat.
yeah, the fat helps it move through the blood system as well. So like for the best way for you to get the health benefits of turmeric is a little bit of pepper and then also some sort of fat. And we're cooking with fat anyways with oil, so as you cook. But if you make like a turmeric tea drink or something, like putting a little bit of oil in it.
And depending on how much juice is in your tomatoes, you might want to add, if you're using fresh tomatoes, you might want to add a little bit of water. But if they're really juicy, you'll see a lot of water will come out and it'll kind of create a stewy enough experience to then crack the eggs into.
Now I'm cutting the cherry tomatoes for the shakshuka. I cut the bigger tomatoes, put them in already with some more spices, cumin, turmeric, paprika, a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I'm cutting the cherry tomatoes. I'm gonna mix it in again, give it another like different look and flavor. And here I'll show you what we got cooking. I like to add the parsley at the end. I see that there's a question on when do you add the parsley. I usually add it on top at the end. I like it fresh. I think that shakshuka, most of the dish is really cooked, and so it's nice to have that fresh element on top. And so I'll just chop it really small, and add it at the end, and as well squeeze the lemon at the end as well, because sometimes when you cook the lemon, it becomes more bitter. But if you want it a little more cooked, like another nice time is to like you chop it up and you like after you put the eggs in, then you sprinkle around, and as you let the eggs cook, being poached, then the parsley cooks.
So it kind of depends. You could put it on top after the eggs, and you can let it cook and like get really steamed up with the eggs, or you could add it later on top. And I usually, we also usually we like to make a little tahini sauce as well on the side, and then we drizzle on top of the shakshuka. That's kind of you'll see that in different places in Israel, and of course that's more a recent addition, because the tahini that comes more from the Levantine area.
What do you put in your tahini sauce?
What?
Oh, was I talking over somebody else?
No.
What do you put in your tahini sauce?
Oh, so in the tahini sauce. So we'll show you. We're about to make it together. So we're gonna just let the tomatoes cook down for a little bit. And as we're letting the tomatoes cook down for a little bit, then we'll start showing you all. We'll make tahini. So
Beautiful.
Tahini, what tahini is a sesame seed paste. So usually what you'll find in the Middle East is the sesame seeds are toasted first and then processed into a paste, and ground for a while until they make this paste. And so that's the base. That's the tahini paste. The sauce is not the paste. Sometimes people think, oh, it's just the paste. You can just drizzle on top. The sauce is different. The sauce is the paste. You mix it with.
So this is it's just paste, and it's a little more thick, and so we're gonna get it more watery. So
yeah. And so you'll see in different places sometimes raw tahini, and that's not the one that usually you'll see in the Middle East. It has a completely different taste. And so I really recommend the toasted tahini. And there's many different brands. I really like this brand you can find in the States. It's called Tarazi. And so you have the paste and you start mixing a little bit of water.
And you see how it gets kind of goopy. And
at first it has kind of a weird consistency, and keep mixing it, and then it'll become creamier and creamier.
And you want to add a little more water at a time until it becomes a nice creamy consistency.
And then the other things that go into tahini sauce are you can do a little minced garlic in there, maybe 2 cloves of minced garlic, or actually even a clove is enough of it. 2 small ones, one bigger one is enough to mix in there. Half a lemon, squeeze half a lemon. 3 I would say about 3 tablespoons of olive oil.
So
maybe half a teaspoon of salt, and yeah, that's kind of the basis. People add other different things. Some people actually in Israel, you'll find in different restaurants, they'll squeeze a little bit of tomato in the tahini paste and they'll mix it together. And there's also there's other fun ways of doing it. You'll see in different places too, where they blend it with some parsley. They kind of make a more greener tahini sauce. But the basic is just, and you can blend. You can just mix it by hand, or if you have blender, then you can get even creamier, and you can get that garlic even more well mixed throughout. And then I like to then drizzle a little bit of olive oil on top of the tahini paste. And you can also if you're serving it like that, you can also add a little bit of paprika or something else to beautify it. Chopped parsley.
So good olive oil. So putting some olive oil, as I have a good consistency. some olive oil, and the olive oil makes it even like lighter, like kind of helps give it a lighter color. And then we'll chop some garlic as well, and add some lemon. Maybe if you want to do the lemon.
And I really highly recommend to, with everything, before you serve it, just give it a little bit of taste, and then you can see if maybe it could use a little bit more salt or a little bit more lemon at the end. And so I would always start moderately too. Like if you have a bigger lemon, I wouldn't do half a lemon. For a smaller lemon, I would do half a lemon. For a bigger one, I would start with just even less than half, and then if you want a little more, then you can squeeze on top of it. People have different preferences as well in terms like how much sourness they like to it.
It needs a little more lemon and a little more salt.
Another fun spice mix that you can put either on top of the shakshuka or on top of the tahini is called za'atar. I don't know how many people are familiar with za'atar, and that's it's in the beginning it was like za'atar is actually a plant too. It's widely known as hyssop. It kind of grows wild all over Palestine, Israel, and it has like a really nice aromatic nature to it, and usually you'll see like spice mixes with toasted sesame seeds and thyme and sumac. Sumac berries are also, the powder of sumac berries is also, you'll find a lot in Levantine cuisine, and so za'atar. And a lot of times nowadays you'll find it without the actual za'atar plant. It's like thyme and sesame seeds and sumac, and maybe some other green plant, oregano or something. But you can add that as well. It adds a really nice flavor and decor on top. Or just sesame seeds, you can also put just on top. It also adds a nice look to the shakshuka.
I'll just show you how. So this is kind of where we're at with the shakshuka. The tomatoes are becoming pretty saucy. We're just letting the water like steam off a little bit as well. Give it a little more dense concentration, so that we can put the eggs in pretty soon.
I'm making hopefully enough for all 6 of my housemates.
You got two Casa.
Got 2 going on.
It's a great party food. It's a great like Sunday brunch party food.
With that being said, what kind of bread do you like to eat with it? Like you do a pita, or you do like a crusty bread, or what do you think?
I think you could. I like anything. I like a good sourdough, or I like pita, of course, like warming it up nicely. It's nice that it's like if you could get some more of the fluffy pita. Like the fluff, I think, is what's nice. If it's like the fluffy sourdough middle or the fluffy pita. But if it's kind of like a more like thin, dense ones, then I would say, yeah, I would say that's kind of what I go for. So like the airiness can really absorb the sauce.
Just gonna add a little more. This is a good time to taste and see if the flavor that you like in the tomatoes, and you can add a little more salt or a little more paprika or a little more cumin. So I'm gonna add a little more salt.
Now we're going to show you the process of poaching the eggs into the shakshuka. I don't know where everyone's at, but yeah, we're going to put the shakshuka in the eggs into the shakshuka, and basically what you do. So let me just. So I put a hole. Basically what you're trying to do is you move over some of the like more solid material, and then you kind of create a little bit of like a bed for the egg to rest in, and then you crack the egg into it. And if you have 2 people, then it's nice that one person will kind of create that bed and the other person will crack the egg into it. And you're wanting to kind of like evenly space it throughout the shakshuka. And depending on how many people you're feeding, you can probably fit up to, in one cast iron, you can fit up to 8, even more. And now the eggs are in, and we're just gonna let it poach. Looking forward to seeing what everyone gets to cook up. There's no shakshuka that looks exactly the same. Yeah, thank you, Carrie.
So maybe bring the so we can just show them the shakshuka. So we're covering it up just to like let it really poach. But here we added some parsley already that's cooking with it, and we're just gonna let it poach for a little while until it's a consistency. Some people like it more soft boiled, like the eggs a little more runny. Some like it a little harder. It depends what you want.
So I don't know if everyone got that or could see it, but basically Joy was showing the poached eggs, and as we're poaching them, and depending on the cooking time depends on how runny you like your eggs or how cooked you like your eggs. You can get them all the way to like kind of like hard boiled where the yolk is firm, or you can get where the yolk is a little more runny, or you can do like soft boiled kind of in between. I like I like it just a little runny.
Does anyone have any questions for now?
Yes, I wondered if the tomatoes ever react with a cast iron skillet.
I haven't had that. In what ways do you think? I usually use a cast iron skillet, so I haven't had a problem with that.
Good. Yeah, I usually do, but so far when I've cooked tomatoes, I've used another one, but I'll try it with the cast iron. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it might, if the acid absorbs some iron, like
Yeah,
it's good, we get more iron in our food.
Yep.
So
Thanks.
great question. Thank you.
I have a confession to make that I have made what I call quick shakshuka by just putting tomato sauce, like pasta sauce, into a pan and cracking eggs in it.
Yeah, you can do that. There's the quick shakshuka. If you don't have the time, and you have and maybe you have like a tomato sauce on hand. Even you want to saute an onion first, add the tomato sauce, and then you can add the eggs into it.
But it feels like a luxury to make it like properly and take the time. Slow food.
There's no really quick food in the Arab cuisine.
Trader Joe's is a quick one too. You ever at Trader Joe's?
Oh, really? Let me see that.
The quick shakshuka starter.
It's just like
Wow.
it's already like cooked the tomatoes and what's
Just
in
bring-
it?
Bring your own
What's
eggs.
in that?
You can microwave it. You can do tomatoes. What is it? Onions, bell pepper, tomato, olive oil, garlic, cilantro, salt, pepper, paprika slices.
Paprika. Shakshuka starter.
Wow.
There we go.
Not this one.
Shakshuka from Monrovia, California.
But you know, a lot of the beauty in Arab cooking as well is like the slowness of it and like the process and the care that it takes to like cut the ingredients and the timing of when to put different things. And that's like a lot of like the beauty of Arab cooking as well. When you make tagine or you make any other type, it's just very much like there's a lot that goes into it, and each one has its own time of when you put the ingredient in as well. And so there's like this beautiful, it's like a build up. So once you get to the dish, you're like, you build it up. The longing is created more and more. Every ingredient.
And it really feels like an art.
Yeah.
It really feels like an art form.
What do you serve it in, a bowl or on a plate?
Usually on a plate. So they, you can do it in a bowl, but usually in a plate.
Because it's runny, right? It's got a lot of liquid, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's usually what you do is you put it like you put a piece in a little more of the center of the plate. So you let some of it run a little towards the edges, and then you can also put your bread or your pita as well, and a little like a lot of times you'll see it served with like an Israeli sized salad, which is just chopped up tomatoes and cucumbers, maybe with a little bit of parsley and olive oil and lemon and salt. Which is also really, when I say Israeli salad, I actually mean Arab salad.
Yeah, that was one of the main dishes that they talked about in the film as being like, where did this really come from and who does it belong to? Did everybody watch the film? Or are some people going to watch it later today? Arliss, yeah? Michal, you did?
Yeah.
Love to hear anybody's thoughts on the film as well.
We thought it was amazing. I loved it. I thought it was such a great film.
I like that it just highlighted the food cuisine of Haifa, of Haifa, it really does like more than any city in Israel, Palestine, like really blends the different cultures together, and you're seeing a lot more collaboration.
Yeah, and just I don't know about y'all, but I just got my mouth was so watery after watching that film because all the dishes look so good, and just you can tell of like the different stories that come with each dish as well, and like also the mixing of stories as these chefs collaborated together.
And as you saw in the film too, the hummus that we eat here in the States, in the refrigerated is definitely very far from the hummus that we see there. It's just like where it's served warm and made so freshly, and it's a completely different experience. And it really is the meal itself, not just a side.
I kind of thought it was interesting that what we call an Israeli salad really started in the Arab tradition, and that we stole it from.
Right, and that's kind of, you saw what shakshuka too. Shakshuka is, it's a North African Jewish, which is Arab, and a lot of times it's a whole complicated history of how a lot of the Jews in these regions have kind of like separated from their Arab identity.
Right, and Hadar and I did an interview that showed after the film that hopefully people saw. Yeah.
But here we give it a name, Israeli salad, which is really saying, hey, you know, it's ours. We don't acknowledge its history at all.
Right, right. And also another thing that in the Moroccan tradition, you make like a cooked tomato salad, which is basically like the basis of shakshuka, what we just did, and they call it madboucha. Some people eat just that without the eggs, and they like put it on bread and serve it. And then usually like our Moroccan grandmother, she would have a lot at hand, and then she would use that as the base for the shakshuka at different times. She kind of had her own shakshuka starter that she had.
What was the mabrucha?
What?
Did you say it was mabrucha?
Madboucha, yeah, that's the like cooked tomato.
Madboucha.
Like, basically like a lot of what we see in like it's like the base of the shakshuka and what we just prepared. And it's called madboucha itself, and you eat it just on its own. You put on bread, or you like add it to different vegetables. And I was saying that my grandmother would like make a lot of madboucha. Our mom too. And then the madboucha was actually like a lot of times like that shakshuka starter that they would just have on hand in the fridge already, and just use that as a base.
Yeah, I also like brought some to share. I have some that I already made. So, you know, can already make it, and then you can just, or get at Trader Joe's, or you can just make the whole sauce beforehand, and then when you want, you can just put it in and then crack the eggs. So you don't have to do the whole process. Like if you have less time and you want to make the dish, then you already have the sauce in hand.
Do you all ever do like cheese in yours? Because I know that, not to be this whole Trader Joe's commercial, we put some of this Israeli feta in with it too.
Yeah, you see a lot of feta. A lot of times people put feta when they put the eggs in. They also put feta in between the eggs. That's another one of the modern variations of shakshuka.
Yeah, we don't really do that because we don't eat much dairy, but it's a very common thing.
Are you in St. Louis right now?
No, we're in California.
Nice.
Yeah, we're based in two different places, but we're based in Northern California.
Right on. We have family in St. Louis, so I thought that was a cool.
Oh, you do? Great.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we actually have growing up, our mom's cousin, our mom's brother's wife's sister,
Which is kind of like an aunt to us.
is an aunt to us, because all of our family is in Israel. And so, you know, when you find that one family member in the States as well, they become like your close family. And she lives in Minneapolis, and so we would come to visit her.
Next time you come, we'll have you over. We'll make Shabbat dinner.
Yeah, amen. Soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
So-
Thanks for coming.
Toda. Bye bye.
Yeah, toda rabah.
So here, we can show you all the shakshuka. It's ready. Okay.
Wow, Michal, that sounds really special.
It is. It's a really good organization. They have, I don't know, 6 or 7 olive groves maybe. And it's nice. It's smallish, but it's nice to go there and spend a day, and they'll help you find a place to stay if you want to stay overnight. I want to say I really enjoyed this much more than a lot of the American cooking shows that are so frenetic, and they've always got to have something going on. And you see them put it together, then you see them take it out of the oven, because
Right.
I guess Americans can't stand silence. I don't know. And I've noticed that at a lot of the films in the film festival too. European and Israeli films aren't necessarily constantly going with music and people talking.
Right.
So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's good to do.
Especially Ziara.
Especially what?
Ziara, did you see that one?
Yeah, yeah.
which was in Morocco.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
like almost no music. It's like
Mhm.
kind of slow, but
It's
it
very
was
slow,
for me. It was
yeah.
like, oh, I feel soothed. I'm in Morocco now.
You can think a little bit too. It's not somebody else always guiding your thoughts. Yeah, no, I enjoyed this. This was fun. And
Yeah,
and also good things to do. So,
And I'm sorry, I missed your showing moment, Dor. It looked beautiful. Can you show it?
yeah. So here we can-
and we're gonna cut it up, like take it up, put it in some plates so you can see it as
Mhm.
well. Right? Like some plates. Great.
I just looked in the fridge and we had bell peppers the whole time, and I just didn't realize.
oh, you're going to deliver to our doors on a plate?
What do we deliver?
Yeah, you're gonna deliver this to our door?
You know,
I don't know, shipping it across the country. I don't know, it might lose some of its quality.
unless we can teleport in the we can go in the port key in the fireplace.
I just want to see it as you finish it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're okay. Only plates. And then I put some.
Very nice. Yeah.
Wow,
What did you take out of the
beautiful.
oven? Is that bread that you took out of the oven?
Uh-huh.
Very nice.
Tahini all over.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This is,
Dor, I want to take a screenshot. Will you hold it again?
yeah.
yeah, we can hold it.
Yeah, if we'll both do it.
So I think, yeah, I think we'll soon enjoy the meal. And so, yeah, thanks everyone for joining us.
Maybe we can
today.
say a blessing together.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Would you lead us in a?
Which one should we do? Should we do Borgay Priya Damat? Should we do Shakol because the eggs, or should we do Matzilach and bread?
And just a phrase that I'll just share, you know, in Morocco, you say before you enjoy a meal or a drink together, you say Kul bisaha wa raha, which means everything in good health and good spirit. And so, yeah, just wishing that for all of us, and yeah, we could also say in the Hebrew blessing of the bread for those who have the bread. Yeah, and also the name of the film was Breaking Bread, right? So
We're breaking bread together.
yeah,
Here
so
we are.
Here we are. Baruch atah Adonai Elohecha haolam
Utzi
hamotzi
lechem
lechem
min
min haaretz.
haaretz. Amen.
Amen. Mine is done too. Excited
Oh,
to
wow.
drizzle some
Wow.
za'atar and tahini on this.
Yes.
Nice job, Riv. It looks beautiful.
Thank you. Doesn't have the peppers or the parsley, but I think it's gonna be good.
But it allowed you to be
Got
more
two of
You're
creative.
not putting the mushrooms in?
I didn't end up putting the mushrooms in either.
But it allowed you
A
to be
lot of
more
steps.
creative.
Sure, I did put kale in, which was
Oh.
unexpected. And it like really needed to be used today, so that was kind of a nice excuse.
Exactly. That's the best part of cooking too. Is like you get creative when you need to use a dish to put something into it.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Alright,
much,
so,
Dora and
beautiful
Ophir.
day.
And thank you everybody for coming and participating in this year's film festival, and hope you have a great day and join us for Humor Fest in February. Details to come.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks
So good to be
everyone.
here.